And
that
it
time
builds
of
such
crisis.
deep, lasting connections then as well, doesn't it? Like we tend to connect over the negative things, not so much the positives. And so having that well, not a negative emotion, is it? But having an emotional connection at a time like that is more powerful than 5 or 6 really great training sessions where they're hitting PRs.
Well, I also think it helps you as a coach if you have the emotional understanding and the empathy to take that on board. It helps you know how they're going to handle their prep and how they're going to handle a competition. Because if you can start to see their emotional breaking point and things like that, not that you should ever deliberately try to break them, but you can start to see those precursors outside of data. So obviously I get my program in, I look at all their notes, I train with them 5 times a week, and I can see the physical improvements or where the fatigue is hitting. But if I also know them on an emotional level and I can see that something's not quite right, I can pull a bit of that intensity out to limp them through. But if I'm only going off online coaching where it's just data in a spreadsheet, I don't have that connection and I break them in the prep. So I think knowing that about your client, it's hard to learn. And I think you can probably only do it if you're the right type of person or have the appropriate training background. But if you can have it, it is a very, very powerful weapon to get the most out of a prep and a comp from particularly
I like that you said if you have the right type of training and you have definitely all the right types of training and experience as well. So you've been able to play with a lot. If you don't have that training, how do you get it? Or how would you advise getting it? Where do you start?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can seek it out. So I recommend every coach should have at least the mental health first aid. Obviously, you should have your physical first aid. You should have someone drops and has a heart attack. You know how to do compressions, call an ambulance, all that stuff. We've got a defib on site, all those things that you should have. But there is a course that we did. We've got what is called emotional wellbeing advisors. That's what we call them, which are separate to the 2 coaches. The 2 coaches have it as well. But if you're not comfortable talking to your coach, we've got these people. But I think all coaches should sit that. It's a 2-day course. It does incur a cost, but it teaches you how to approach these conversations, warning signs to look out for, and particularly in the sport that we do that does attract, let's be real, special people, unique people, whatever you want to call us. It attracts those people. It's warning signs to look out for pharmaceutical abuse or alcohol abuse or physical abuse, emotional abuse. You get all those. How to talk to someone who might be suicidal. How to talk to someone who's going through a psychotic episode. The key phrases and stuff to use was not going to escalate, but it also isn't going to undermine, because a lot of the time people will be like, oh, don't kill yourself. That's not always the way to approach it, right? And it also gives you the arsenal to then refer on to other services. So I think all coaches should have that. I had an argument with one of my daughter's coaches not that long ago. And I'll be very careful here not to drop too many hints of names or anything, because it is complicated. But basically, I brought them some stuff that was happening at home across split households of like, hey, a couple of things to be aware of. This is what we're dealing with. I thought you should know. And that coach freaked out. I don't need to know this stuff. You're bringing me personal stuff. This, whatever. I don't think I can work with you or your daughter anymore. And then said, would your clients bring you this? I was like, yeah, I want to know this stuff. My 8-year-old child spends as much time with you as anybody else. You should want to know the signs of things to look out for, because if you're not paying attention, a little girl that trains with you could be being abused and you haven't noticed and you haven't referred on. And eventually we will, when my daughter's a bit older, move away from this person. But it was just this mind-blowing. The coach was not interested. And to me, you've got to be interested in the emotional well-being of your athlete, or you're never going to have a good relationship with them. And so, yeah, that would be my starting point. Mental health first aid is the primary one. And then there's a bunch of other stuff you can do depending on how you want to specialize. You can go into behavioral analysis training. You can go into autism specific stuff. You could go into physical disabilities, whatever, but they're all individual things to seek out separate to that.